I am a soul blazer. I change lives, I touch people's souls, and I open them up. I teach people how to be present and to be in their authentic soul. Do you guys know what imposters are? These untrained imposters, they reside on the stage of our brain, and they're trying to control us. But usually what happens is they make things worse. But the good news is that we can control them. We could take over and we could teach them to work for us instead of against us. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here today. Today I have a special guest. His name is Kian, and he is the founder and CEO of Independa, which is the leader in remote and social and clinical engagement. And he has been a CEO forever. He changes lives, and now he wants to focus on the healthcare industry. And I'm so excited to talk to him about what it takes to be a leader and an entrepreneur, what Independa is going to be doing in the future, and what the healthcare system is going to look like. So, hi, Kian. So good to see you.
Hi, Lisa. It's great to be here with you today. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. I'm so impressed with everything you're doing. And I think it's so needed at this time. I think we're in a healthcare crisis. So when I learned about what you were doing, I'm like, oh my God, I got to have him on this show. So please share with us exactly what Independa is and how it works.
You bet. You bet. So Independa is a software company first. And so we have a subscription-based service. And we have this for organizations. So those could be senior living communities or home care organizations, PACE programs, which is a great basically insurance and healthcare provider, stands for Program for All-Inclusive Care of the Elderly, and in other areas like short-term rehab and so forth. So those are all organizational business solutions. And then more recently, since January, we have what we call the Independa ecosystem, which is a health hub that's integrated inside every LG consumer TV. So we're really excited about that. And that's for consumers. And all of them together combined help someone stay wherever they live, whether it's in their home or in a community, longer, safer, more comfortably, and then they delay, maybe even eliminate the next episode or stage of care. So there's a lot of work there to be done for all of us, and particularly for older adults to help them, stay independent longer.
Yeah, how exactly does it work? If I'm at home and I have an LG TV and something happens to me and I'm like, oh my God, I need assistance. What would I do if I'm by myself?
First off, we're not a medical device, so that's really important. We are a health and wellness platform. So one of the things that we do through the TV is everyone is familiar with this large screen, and everyone can do, let's say, exercises better in front of a larger screen. If you have a doctor's appointment, doing that in front of a large screen is much better. And also still many of us are not as comfortable to get onto a small screen or a tablet or download mobile apps or do software upgrades and virus scans and passwords and so forth. So just changing the paradigm to be able to use this appliance that everyone is super comfortable in using, and then use that as a bi-directional window for engagement, education, and care into the world is a game changer.
Oh, absolutely.
So how does that work? So I just mentioned, for instance, if I want to get a doctor's appointment, let's say I fall down on a 2 a.m. Saturday and I chip my tooth, and I'm not sure if I should go to ER or if I should, wait for a week to see my own dentist, or maybe, now I know there's this, I can do 24/7 connection anywhere in America. And so I go in and I basically pay $75, and our partners at Dentulu have a dentist come on board, and they can ask some questions. They could look at my mouth. There's even a camera that's a dental camera. If you ever want to buy that separately, that also works. It can actually look at your teeth. In any event, they can prescribe something. Maybe I was about to travel. They tell me if it's okay to travel and come back, or no, you really want to stay behind now and go see your dentist. And they can prescribe something and go pick it up from the pharmacy. So that's a practical example of, the familiarity of the TV, the convenience of having care come to me, and help me stay independent. And you can multiply that by a therapist or a doctor We have a relationship with WebMD, so their content is available to consumers for the first time directly through the TV. So we're really excited about all of our partnerships in this ecosystem.
Who are your partners right now? You have LG and you're with
so LG is a strategic partner in the sense that they've taken our platform, and huge credit to them, they've integrated inside the WebOS operating system of the TV. So what this means to consumers, which is really exciting, is I can be watching any show, any program, any channel, any input. I can be playing a video game on my TV. I can be running Netflix or et cetera, have a satellite connection. And I might get a notice for a picture that comes up, or a video chat request from my daughter or my son or my neighbor or my friend. Or if I have a doctor's appointment, that would pop up. Or if I have a medication reminder that's been set up for me. So it really allows the TV to become much more engaging from a health and wellness setting for me than I otherwise would, because I'm not sitting in front of my computer all the time, et cetera. So that's credit to LG, and as a healthcare platform for LG, that's what we do. And then we have a whole range of ecosystem partners. So I mentioned Dentulu, for instance. They have 50 state 24/7 dentists. We have MediOrbis. They have doctors, 50 states, 24/7, and therapists. We have WebMD, I mentioned. You have medical grade content that you can't do searches or find anywhere on the internet. And you have it in 15 categories. So if I'm about to have my hip surgery, I can learn all about hip surgeries from doctors and how to recover faster. We have Spiral 100 that has exercise videos for older adults. We have Coro Health that has faith-based videos and music therapy for dementia patients. We have, very importantly, our friends at Capital RX that have a discount pharmacy card free of charge. By the way, there's a lot of services that we provide on the TV free of charge, including our own message sharing, video chat, photo sharing, games.
How does that work? People could talk with each other?
People can talk with each other. You can download a mobile from Independa free, and your daughter, your neighbor, your friend, and you can propagate it to as many people as you want, simply and free. And then people can send you pictures, they could send you messages, they could send you video chat requests. You can video chat with them, or you could be playing games literally right on your TV. You also get a pharmacy discount card from Capital RX, so that's a huge savings for most people, including if you have insurance. So that's also free. You have entertainment from our partners at Saltbox TV that have old TV programs like 𝗷𝒐𝒂𝗁𝒊𝒏𝒈 and Leave It to Beaver and Matlock and so forth for older adults, again, free of charge. And we're adding constantly more free services. We're going to have a hearing aid test, for instance, for free, and other things. So there's no reason why not to buy an LG, and no reason why not to get all these free goodies engaged.
Okay, so you've been doing this since 2009. Is that when you founded the company?
The company was founded 2009, exactly.
Okay, so what does it take? What did it take to get to this point?
Well, you have to be able to bend reality, I would say, Lisa. Okay, often. Yep. So I would say if there's one trait that as an entrepreneur you need to have, is really persistence. If you believe in where you're going, and others believe in you and the mission and the vision, then persistence is probably the key. There's a lot of other, basic requirements that you need to have, like you need to always make sure you have enough money for payroll, which isn't given necessarily. I love the best definition of entrepreneur for me is someone who gets things done without the right resources. So if you could think about that.
Yes.
So you have to be creative. But we had early indication that we were onto something special, and we didn't want to just do something, just a little bit better than other things. We wanted to do something very, very different, which is what we did. We actually had the world's first tablet to help with older adults, and then we realized that TV is so much more engaging and easy and so forth. But at the end of the day, Lisa, we're agnostic, and other TV manufacturers could have us running on them. We have a tablet company for healthcare that's going to have us running on them. So it's really all about the ecosystem and the services that we provide. But the TV is surely a wonderful platform to engage someone with.
Oh, absolutely. I know so many people who could benefit from this. So it's very exciting. But I really wanted to talk about, for the listeners, about leadership and being an entrepreneur and how you launch a company like this, because so many people right now don't want to get regular jobs. They want to do something like you're doing. You had a vision and you saw it through, and it's now really happening before our eyes. And people are using it today, and it's going to keep growing. How do you create something like that? Like, what are the steps? What are the, main things to become a leader? I know it's work that I do, and a lot of leaders that I've worked with, globally, it's really not about what you do all the time, but about knowing how to lead in a way that people want to follow you, and really create. It's not what you say, but it's how you say it. Have you found that to be true? Because I know you have a lot of people working under you.
Well, I would say they work with me and I work with them. So for me, it's never really a hierarchy. I always feel like I work for everyone, not the other way around. I work certainly for our customers. I work for our shareholders. I work for our board. I work for employees. I work for our partners. So in that sense, I'm really, it's almost like an upside down pyramid. But you're right. It's all about being of service, really, when we talk about working for. So what are we being of service to? Are we creating opportunities for our employees and our partners? Are we creating a better life for people who use our platform? Are we creating better opportunities for our partners? Are we making them more competitive? Are we changing lives, changing businesses? So if we do all of that, and really at the personal level, Lisa, I think it comes down to, can we inspire those around us, including ourselves, every day, to be the best we can be, and to do that on our own? Because there's no amount of management that can make that happen. There's really, leadership, I think, is around inspiring people to do that on their own and inspiring others around them. And if you create that and create a group of people who are like-minded and believe in the same cause and the same vision, are basically rowing in the same direction, then really amazing things happen.
And staying present, staying open to new ideas.
Exactly. So I'm going to stay open. I'm looking at my background here. I'm going to see if I can maybe change my background, because it's coming and going. I don't know if that's going to be doable, but I'll do that while we chat.
Yeah, I feel like what you're saying is, like, you don't act like the boss and the leader, which is great, because most people that I've spoken to and says, it starts with me and then it's trickled down. And you're saying it's the opposite. You don't see yourself necessarily as being the leader, as more, you feel like you're more in service and empowering and inspiring others, and you're all building as a team. Is that accurate?
Yeah. That's 100% accurate. That's 100%. And also, yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah. Do you want to answer some of these questions that are coming in?
Yeah, I wasn't reading them. Let's see. Everyone can be a leader. You don't have to go to business school to become a leader. You just have to have an impact on others. Yeah, that's true. I think if you really believe in where you're going and believe in the people around you, one of the adages I have is anyone who trusts us has to look great. So it's a simple concept, but a customer trusts you with their time and with their energy. They make a business decision for you. An employee trusts you to come and work with you and get paid for that, and they can go get paid somewhere else and work for someone else. A partner trusts you to get training and get excited about what you have versus some other choices they have. So I think if you just, even at a simple level, have a few paradigms that you propagate, then good things happen.
Well, what are 3 tips you would leave someone who really wants to start their own company today? They have a great idea. They need funding. They need the right partners. They need the right employees, and they don't have the resources.
Yeah, so software is very different. You need backing. We have 20 million invested in our company, VC rounds A, B, and C, and we have an amazing board, and we have great advisors, and so that there's a lot of that I would suggest is really important. Anyone you take money from, you have to be totally committed to that opportunity to make sure that you do all you can. It's not a college try. I'm stating the obvious.
One sec. When you said you get a board, is that where they should start? Should they get a board of directors just for somebody to?
I think probably the most fundamental thing for me was to really validate what the market is. because I felt like there was a huge opportunity. Obviously, there's a lot of folks that are older, and there's going to be more and more. We're doubling, our 85-year-old and older demographic by, I think it's 2035. So, I mean, the numbers are huge. And so the idea was, how come we haven't done a good job with technology to help this demographic? And so I thought of some easy ways that we could do that, but it was important for me to understand why it hadn't been done before. So for instance, in my case, I engaged a company called IDEO.com. They're a phenomenal design firm, and they were super helpful in evaluating things and working with us, and down to the like initial wireframes of the software. They validated the market. They came back with numbers. They came back with suggestions. They came back with processes that ultimately, founded Independa with me. So I think that's an important thing. If you are looking at a marketplace, just validate it, make sure it's there, make the numbers work. Also, if you're looking for money, I think you have to always ask for more and get more than what you think. There's never, the numbers that you have are never going to be the right numbers, but the thought process that goes into them, the validation of that for someone who wants to invest is huge. Lisa, I think there's a lot of other businesses that don't need that kind of funding, right? You could start your own business. You could be an individual. You could start and start making money. And as you get better and have more business, you can hire under you. And so that's another great way to do it. It's just persistence, I think, is the key.
Yeah. So when you come up with an idea, someone just asked, actually I had 3 questions here. If you have an idea and you don't have the funding, what do you do first? Do you just go out there and get funding, or even if it's, pocket change or something to get going, or do you build a team? Do you get a partner? And is it important to have a partner in the beginning?
It depends. Like if someone wants to fund, at least on the software side, if somebody wants to fund a company, the leadership team is really important. Their backgrounds are very important. So if you can have a group of impressive, experienced leaders that would give comfort to a potential investor, that's great. If you're that person, then that's great too. So it depends on where that person sits within that marketplace. So that's one. In terms of before or after, it's a process. The way I explain it is, imagine you're running across this bridge and you're building it as you go. So you can't slow down too much and just look for money, because then everything stops. And if you don't have money, your employees need to go elsewhere. And if you're imagining that you can get a lot of money, and then you start, that doesn't work either, because people want to see milestones and validation points and so forth. So I think it's really a tough challenge, parallel on both sides. You've got to run the business, and you got to create a source for fuel to be constantly coming in.
Yeah, someone asked me to ask you, so if this person has a company, it's a cosmetic company, and they were going well for a while, for about a year, and now they're not making the sales that they used to make. So what do? Do they fold? Do they keep persevering? The money's not there. They're going more and more into, I have to get rid of my home. I have to get rid of, whatever they have to survive, to keep it going.
That's tough. Like, if you look at almost every success story along those lines, you go back and there are exactly those types of situations where people come out of it and say, oh yeah, I mortgaged a home. I, maxed my credit cards. I did this, I did that. And yet here I am. So you could look at that and say, well, everyone should do that. On the other hand, how many people do we not come across that did all that and it didn't, reach escape velocity, and, they went and got a job. So I think I can't say that there's a rule that always will apply. I can only say that if you absolutely believe that you're onto something, then the number one goal is to make sure you're here to fight another day as a company. Sometimes that means a reduction in force, which nobody likes to do. It's very hard. But frankly, if you have, let's say, 20 people in your company, and you might have to downsize to 10, so you can actually have the runway to come back and make things happen, then 10 people with success is much better than 20 people with failure. And that's always such a challenge for any CEO, especially if it's a first time having to do that. Very challenging.
This person is running their business with volunteers right now and saying people are running out and the credit cards are maxed. Like, oh, do I stay in it or not? But, my answer always is only do know. If you have the passion and you have the wherewithal and the smarts, there's always a way. There's always a way if you did your research and there's a need. You found a niche that people need. So Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically a lot of times is to make forward progress, even in the toughest of times, because then when the opportunities come, you're ready. The key is when the opportunities come, you're ready. And something else I would mention is, at least in my view, it's really important to sort of walk towards the impossible. And just when you get there, take a small step away. So to me, that was always exciting in terms of creating value in a way that is unique and compelling. And it's not just a slightly better mousetrap, because if you can get there, then you have a lot of value. So that was just a personal approach. Other people can do all sorts of businesses. You could be a distributor between two goods, from one company to another group of people. You could be a consultant and do that. So there's a lot of ways to be independent and be a leader and be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, what I usually tell people about leadership, it's not who you know, but it's who knows you and who likes you. And my response to this is somebody else asking a question was, if you don't have any money, but you have this great idea, but you're new to a city and you just moved to LA. I know you started this in San Diego and you got your investors through your inner circle. Am I correct? Your first investors?
Inner circle, but also outside of that. Really, it's a professional endeavor. There's an investment opportunity. People invest, and they're investing really in the vision.
But from the initial bit, when you just have this vision, and the first people that invested, was it someone you know, or people who turned it on to other people? Because the question is, if you don't have friends in those circles, how do you approach somebody like that? Do you join a group? And if so, what groups are out there that you could join? Are there CEO groups that you would recommend, or entrepreneur groups?
Sure. So a couple of things. One is, when I think about my first 5 investors, which were founding investors, 2 of them I knew more than 2 years. 3 of them I knew less than a year, basically. And just based on the investment. One of them actually I didn't even meet before they invested. So it depends. In terms of where to join, there's a lot of local resources. There are tech angel investment groups. There are just angel investment groups in every city. LA has a great angel network. If you're looking at sort of angels, they're looking at pre-VC software investment. But if you're looking at sort of mom and pop shop, I'm investing, I'm giving you a $25,000 loan, $50,000 loan, I would say the SBA with the personal loans and business loans is a great resource. I mean, we have great resources that can come in and fund startups and fund initial dreams that way, that you don't have to go to a VC and you don't have to go to an angel investor.
Yeah, I'm on a board of a company called Pitch Global, and we have entrepreneurs come and pitch their ideas. They've been on hold and just doing it online during the pandemic, but they're coming back. And I think that's a great resource, because you actually get to pitch it to 30, 40 people in a room that are there to be inspired by what's the latest idea,
yeah. Great. One thing that's much more operational, but I would share with folks is, whatever you dream is a great service that you can provide value with. Just iterate. There's this concept of fail quickly and just repeat. And that's the time to do that. There's a lot of learning involved. And a lot of times we think we know things, but when you put things in front of people, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, whether, a content, just getting the feedback and iterating, it seems like you're not quite moving forward. You're sort of doing this over and over. But there's so much learning that goes on, and there's so much savings of trial and error later, with more resources, with more expensive things that you do. So I'd recommend that until you get that process down and nail it down up front, I wouldn't invest in trying to scale it. Just make sure you understand everything around what you do up front.
Okay, so share with us one thing, one mistake you made and how you recovered from it.
Oh, well, many mistakes. And it's
like a big one that you're going, oh my God, I could continue with this, when that.
Yeah, I'd say one of the, well, when I think about it, I hired a person who was a phenomenal business lady, and super successful, totally wealthy. She just had a passion for our business, and she could retire and she wanted to come in and be of great help. And I saw her as a partner over time. I saw her as someone I could, leave the company behind with and do other things. And the challenge was she was always in big companies. And I tried to impress upon her that if you're in a startup, like the point about an entrepreneur, we don't have all the resources that she was used to having. And even though I said all the right things, and even though I challenged her to make sure that, this is a roll up your sleeves, you always have to be available, all that. And she, I think, intellectually got it. But when she started, our office manager asked me, she said, Kian, so-and-so asked if the limo is waiting for them at the airport where they landed. And I said, no, we don't have limos picking people up at airports. And that kind of told me maybe I didn't convey that properly. Yeah. And over time, it just wasn't a good fit because of that, because she really was committed to a different lifestyle, even though she was great. And I guess the learning experience, I thought about that quite a bit. And I realized the way I interviewed wasn't good enough. I shouldn't have just qualified everything. I should have made it visceral. And I should have asked her, what's the most important thing that you do in a week? And she would have said, I go to my daughter's recitals. They do ballet and they do music, and I love seeing them do their thing. And I would have said, imagine not being able to see them for 2 or 3 weeks on end because you're on the road. And that would have, hit home, and she wouldn't have accepted the job, but also it would have been a better, understanding up front.
Oh yeah, great questions. I think that's really important in being a leader, is asking those great questions. Yeah, that's interesting. So I love that, because so often it's about the questions that help build people and the questions that help grow a company. And I want to know, again, with your building your company, because you've really taken it from nothing to this amazing healthcare system for us. What are a few things that you did right, but you would think, oh, if I had brought in different people, or maybe you did things right, but you brought in somebody that wasn't quite there, but through questions, you got them to a point where they could, actually build your company better than you expected. Like someone who you thought, oh, they're maybe not right for this, but I'm going to give them an opportunity because they did answer a question correctly.
Oh, my favorite question in an interview, which I'm excited to share with everyone, is tell me an example of something you did that was really bad for you personally, but really important for the company, and in a previous position. And that's very telling to me, because it really shows how somebody may go to extremes of caring and being professional for the company, potentially, maybe not for their own good. And there's a lady who still is with us. We've worked together now 6 or 7 years, and she answered that question unbelievably. And she decided to take another job elsewhere. And she wanted to be with us, but that elsewhere was a major multi-billion-dollar conglomerate and was giving her a lot more money. And, I just didn't allow that to happen. Between the recruiter, myself, and her, we worked and we got her in, and she's been grateful, and I've been super, super grateful for that for the years. But that's a very telling question to ask. And she was amazing all along while she's with us. Yeah, that's one good example. So, by the way, a gentleman, I think by the name of Shah, Mr. Implementation, I believe. He had a comment there, and it reminds me, he's right. He talks about staying focused. So I want to mention that as an entrepreneur, because you don't have resources, a lot of times people talk, there we go, Parthiv Shah. Yeah, thank you for that comment. So the idea is that people say, I'm very focused, except I'm opportunistic. And sometimes that's being opportunistic is the same as being like a get out of jail card for being focused. So we have to be really mindful of, like, our success is going to come from what we don't do really as an entrepreneur versus what we do. Because there's so many things that we can do and so many things that come our way. And you have to say no to some investors sometimes that aren't the right investors. You have to say no to certain opportunities that might take forever and cost you money and cost you your brand because they're not the right fit. So that's a great point. I want to overemphasize. I can't overemphasize that.
Oh, that is a great point, what you just said about investors, because I was working on a film and we were going under. The producers lost one investment, so we only had half of the pie and we already started. So he took money from someone who is like, oh, I'm not so sure this is the right partner, because as you know, when you get money from someone, it's like a marriage.
It is a marriage.
Like, oh my God, we're desperate because we already shot a week and we're going to run out of money in a few days. So we took it. And this guy was like a con guy, and he just took over the whole film, fired that guy, just caused disaster upon disaster. And it was not worth it. He actually was threatening his life. I mean, really went bad. But that's in the film business, where you get people who, I just want my name on a movie and I have no talent. So this guy had just got hit by a car or something and got $2 million and wanted to be in the business. So said, I'll give $1 million or $2 million to this film. So his judgment said no, but it sabotaged not only that film, but his career, his family, everything. He lost everything by this guy. So be careful who you take money from, even if you really need it. That's a great lesson.
Yeah. And normally I talk about break emergency glass only type situations, like, yes. Right. But the example you gave, I think even in that situation, you shouldn't take it. But I've had a few where I think of it as, no, it's not break emergency glass only. And so, yeah, we've been very fortunate. We have incredible investors.
Yeah. When I needed to raise money, I was in Tokyo. And when I went to the board, long story short, because we don't have a lot of time, when I went to the board, I was for a ball bearing company. I went to tell them, this is not about the investment. This is about your legacy. This is about your future. And, because they want to come to the United States and learn English. They want to understand real estate here and buy more real estate. And they wanted a time out of their lives because they work so hard. So I'm like, here are the benefits of investing, even if you lose your money, because they pay so much in taxes. So it's not only when you're trying to look for an investor, it's not only about here's what we have to offer and here's what you're going to make, because I teach about abundance and SoulBlazing your way to abundance. And it's really about your community, your friends, what you're offering and what you're getting. So I think even with your company, investing in something that you're doing, you're really helping the world globally with healthcare. You're helping the elderly. So it's something, it's not just to make money. I think it's also to be of service. And I think that's a wonderful way to approach investors. Or if you're trying to raise money, that's another area that you could say you're not just giving money, because so many of these people have so much money to give that they can't spend, but you are actually contributing to something bigger than yourself and helping create your legacy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you want to respond to Paul?
Fail fast. Yes. Yeah. We talked about that.
Yeah. Success is the sum of small
fail
efforts.
Fast and fail early. It's much better fail early and repeat than fail, with a lot of resources allocated. So I saw that slide on healthcare. I don't know if you want to talk about our healthcare system at all.
Yes. Please
yes,
share.
Yes, as in go?
Yes, please share about your thoughts about our current healthcare system.
So I'm going to share some things around healthcare, which I, as a consumer, learned. So, hopefully it's helpful and maybe eye-opening for some of us. And I'll just throw some numbers out. So roughly 20% of our GDP as a country goes towards our healthcare system. And we are last in industrial nations in that area, both in terms of the metrics for healthcare, like how people are measured, countries are measured, and how good their healthcare system is, as well as the cost. The next closest country is around 12%. So we're quite a bit higher. And you look at where the costs are going, something like 80% of that 20% of GDP goes to chronic condition care. So you look at that and you say, okay, well, who typically has chronic conditions? And typically it's the older adult, elderly folks. And so then you say, okay, how do we address that? If we only address chronic conditions, we're improving lives, we're improving costs and so forth. And by the way, as a side note, roughly 50% of those costs are going to big pharma nowadays. And it used to be 15%. So just imagine these overlapping numbers. And if you look at sort of the forest and figure that out, it's actually not hard to figure out where the cost savings will be. But anyway, in our case, the way we look at that is we say, okay, the older adult inside this big, morass of issues and challenges with our healthcare system with chronic conditions typically also is often isolated, lonely, maybe clinically depressed. And that shows that it's been clinically proven to lead to self-neglect, to then medication neglect, to recidivism into the system, or costs and anguish and bad things for yourself and your family and so forth. So we all know nobody wants to be a patient. And so guess what somebody is doing all day long if they're lonely?
What?
Not a trick question. They're watching TV.
Yes.
So we have to hear human voices. That's the beautiful thing about our species is we are social animals. And even if we don't have someone with us that we can socialize, even if people aren't calling us to socialize, we turn on the TV because we see social engagement that way. And so what we've done is take that, commodity appliance and turned it into an engagement window into the world where your daughter can come in, your grandson can send a picture, your doctor can come in, your medication request could be there, you can have games. So that's one way that we feel like we can impact not just older adults, but the entire healthcare system in a very meaningful way. And, I think all of us, there's a couple of programs, like I mentioned PACE earlier. It's really sort of a doctor and an insurance program combined. And it's a really clever way to align your healthcare offering with your patient. In this case, they call them participants, because none of us want to go back to the doctor. And when you think about somebody building the next big hospital and they're CEO of a hospital, they're talking to all these potential bond investors, bondholders. They don't stand there and say, look, I'm going to build this Taj Mahal of a healthcare platform and system and building, and I'm going to keep the beds empty. I'm going to keep people so healthy in my neighborhood, no one's going to come in because no one's going to invest. So they're going to have a plan on how those beds are going to get filled up and how the specialists are going to have more operations and, how the more expensive MRI machine is going to draw more people in. And that's why our healthcare costs are going up, is that it's really tough to be of service to society when you have to also make a lot of money as an organization. And that's where the challenge is. But something like a PACE program, and there's other evolving programs in our healthcare system that start aligning us. And I'm really excited about those.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. We're out of time. We went over a little bit here, but this is fascinating subject. Just tell them where they could reach you. And we're going to put all your social media and website up there anyway, but you want to tell us how we could find you?
Well, your team just put that up, so thank you for that. But you can always visit us at independa.com. So that's our website, and from there you'll see our social handles. And bottom line is, if you want to go buy a TV, I think LG, they win every award with their OLED TVs, and you have the option to turn on Independa, get some free stuff, and then if you ever need other services, you just basically get a QR code and enter your credit card information to that provider, and away you go.
Great. Thank you so much for being here today, Kian. It was
my pleasure.
Yeah, and I think everyone learned so much. So thank you. And continue doing your work. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Bye now.
Bye. I'm 𝗔𝒂𝒁𝗵𝗏, creator of SoulBlazing. I hack how you can change the negative thoughts in your head that hold you back. I call them imposters. I introduce you to them, teach you how to befriend them, and co-create with them, releasing old negative narratives. As a keynote speaker at your next event, I'll help your team turn into master communicators with more camaraderie, which brings more efficiency and growth to your organization. So join me and make shift happen.